Hey fellas, this is Dino Boyo, and we've just received both the teaser and official trailer for the upcoming new paleo documentary series titled Surviving Earth, set to be released with its first episode on June 11th, 2026 on NBC and its streaming service Peacock. Produced by Universal Television Alternative Studio and Loud Minds, the 8-episode miniseries was first announced all the way back in 2022 when it was revealed that none other than Tim Haines, creator of the original Walking with Dinosaurs, would be creative director, with Milk VFX best known for their work on Ice Age giants and dinosaurs in the wild, developing the digital effects for each episode. Over the next 4 years, news about the series remained sporadic, though numerous behind-the-scenes images, clips, and concept art would slowly be sprinkled around social media, revealing the organisms and locations these episodes would take place in. Based on what was shown in those previews and both trailers, not only will this series focus on the big 5 mass extinction events such as the Cretaceous Paleogene mass extinction and the Permian mass extinction, but also smaller mass extinctions that happened over the last 445 million years and the organisms that lived, survived, and thrived during these times, similar to another series I kind of like, Discovery's Animal Armageddon from 2009. Fortunately, it looks like this series will be far more scientifically grounded and won't fall into the same overdramatic pitfalls and fringe theories like it did. I still haven't forgotten how they made an entire hypothetical episode about how a real-life asteroid with a near 0% chance of hitting the Earth, by the way, would hit the Earth, specifically New York City, and as a result send humanity back to the Stone Age. I mean, anthropogenic climate change is more likely to do that long before a meteorite the size of Mount Everest hits the Earth again. So bearing that little distraction I just had, does the series look like it could be on par with some of the best documentaries in the last half-decade? Or will it unfortunately fall flat like some other recent attempts? Well, let's dig up and see what we can uncover. Much like my Walking with Dinosaur trailer video, I'll be grouping scenes by episode, as thanks to the official info from Impossible Pictures, we know the exact episode order, which creatures are showing up, and the exact extinction events they're tackling, giving us a really clear picture of what to expect. Also, I'll be talking about a few creatures that are confirmed for the series but didn't actually show up in the trailers, so I will say that this video will contain spoilers, so if you do not wish to know about them, please click off the video. Episode 1, titled When the Earth Burnt, most likely takes place within the Sulla-Yuva Formation during the late Permian and the Dongoose Formation during the early Triassic, specifically before, during, and after the Permian mass extinction, otherwise known as the Great Dying. The episode will follow a pack of inostrancevia as they struggle to survive the hothouse event. This is further shown when we see several cuts of 2 individuals engaged in a brutal fight that likely won't end well for at least one of them, as one falls off a cliff hanging on at the last second. Later, the trailer cuts to what is presumably the same male before the extinction event, nuzzling his mate as their offspring runs around them. The design of this trio is highly impressive, as not only do we get what I think to be the first depiction of speculative sexual dimorphism within a synapsid lineage, but also showcases clear ontogenetic coloration on the youngster, which further makes them feel like genuine living organisms rather than simply digital models. Another thing I'd like to point out when it comes to the male's design is the detail of injury that is present both pre and post Great Dying. One of my biggest problems with more modern paleomedia is often how sanitized they are when it comes to natural violence. Sure, I agree that the violence in a lot of late 2000s and early 2010 documentaries sometimes got a bit over the top, with some of them going way too far to the point that it stops being a documentary and becomes a gladiatorial gore fest. However, it is just as important to remember that trying to hide it also takes away from the fact that nature is just as brutal and unforgiving as it is beautiful. So I am glad that this show seems to be taking a balanced approach by showcasing the harsh realities that a lot of prehistoric animals would have had to go through without sensationalizing it. This approach also seems to have been extended to the environment, as we see in the trailer how the Great Dying will be depicted in the show, with the landscape being visibly suffocated under the weight of the sulfurous gases and relentless volcanic activity in the distance. A lot of Great Dying depictions have often felt like not much has changed or go way overboard in their destruction, so by focusing on the gradual ecological collapse driven by the active volcanism while keeping it in the background, it helps to ground the Permian mass extinction more closely to what it would have been like in reality. However, we should probably go back to the beginning of the trailer, which confirms that Scutosaurus will also be featured in this episode, as we see a herd of them clustered together. Now, despite my love for the designs in both Walking with Monsters and Primeval, this is definitely up there with Life on Our Planet's version as one of the best reconstructions of the animal in paleomedia, which is probably going to be a running theme within this video, but I can't lie when I say that both the paleo artists and Milk VFX did a great job with a lot of these creature designs. While while we don't get a perfect glimpse of the animal in the trailer due to them being clustered together, an official still featuring the animal was released, and oh boy does this creature look excellent. From the correctly integrated cranial ornamentation to the ears hidden beneath the skin, it fixes several mistakes made by previous documentaries. Later in the teaser trailer, we see another animal from the Sully-Other formation, which features a small dicynodont emerging from the earth, likely seeking shelter from the unfolding mass extinction. While I originally thought this creature was a Diictodon, the production team has confirmed it to be a closely related genus called Elf. Much like Diictodon, however, I find this design to be really adorable. Its more compact, accurate head and stocky little bill give it a unique charm, contrasting sharply with the highly reptilian and more inaccurate look its cousin was depicted with in Walking with Monsters. We also see that Elf will be getting into similar antics with Gorgonopsids too, as in the main trailer it appears to play dead after encountering what appears to be the same juvenile inostrancevia before waking up and being chased by the youngster again. Cutting back to earlier in the trailer, we see an animal which I did not know about called nanuqsaurus, which appears to be dancing on a beach before a Symbospondylus attempts to ambush it. While we don't get a great look at Symbospondylus in the clip, aside from its accurate eel-like body shape and nice counter shading, I have to say I am so happy to see more ichthyosaur representation in Palaeomedia. With the exception of sea monsters and some minor paleo documentaries, unique ichthyosaurs have kind of been left to the wayside in the favour of the cooler and more visually impressive pliosaurs and mosasaurs, despite the fact that ichthyosaurs were not only a highly diverse group of marine reptiles with a longer evolutionary lifespan than those other groups, but also potentially could have contained some of the largest animals that have ever swum. So it's nice to see more depictions of them as dominant predators rather than just simply cannon fodder. I can, however, say more about nanuqsaurus, and I just love this design. Giving it a vivid pheasant-like coloration was genius in my opinion, as it shows the audience that not only did vibrant displays evolve early in the archosaur lineage before dinosaurs even existed, but also shows that these ancient animals were likely as colourful as dinosaurs and modern birds. Stepping back to the marine side of things, Symbospondylus won't be the only unique marine Triassic reptile in this episode, as we also get a brief glimpse of a group of Palaeomedia hatchlings as they quickly scramble to get to the ocean. I'm quite excited to see these creatures, as despite looking like turtles, Palaeomedia actually belongs to the Placodonts, another bizarre group of marine reptiles that has been incredibly underutilized on screen. In fact, from my memory, the only other time a Placodont was actually depicted on screen was Haines briefly appearing in Sea Monsters 3D, so it's awesome to see them finally gain some spotlight, much like the ichthyosaurs. Another new animal confirmed for this episode is Sumania, an arboreal amnomodon from the same formation as inostrancevia and Scutosaurus, and while we don't have any official footage of the animal, it is cool that Tim Haines and the surviving Earth team are giving lesser known animals from these time periods the spotlight they deserve. Episode 2, titled When the Climate Broke, takes place within the Ischigualastia and Los Colorados formation during the late Triassic period before and after the Carnian pluvial event. Usually when it comes to Triassic episodes, you expect that the focus would be on one of the early dinosaurs to showcase their rise. However, it appears that Surviving Earth have decided to go with a different approach, as it has been confirmed that the focus is on the hatchling Ischigualastia as it grows up during a brutal dry spell. I like this decision, as the Triassic was a lot more than just the origin story for dinosaurs, as it was also a period of experimentation when it came to evolution, leading to some of the most bizarre yet wonderful looking creatures, so getting to focus on other animals from this period is refreshing. Anyway, going back to Ischigualastia, the only clips we get across both trailers seem to feature the same juvenile mentioned earlier, first as it emerges from its egg, and another showing it looking around for something, most likely the rest of its herd. While this isn't much to go on, luckily we have a full spread of behind the scenes footage, additional clips, and concept art by Gabriel Ghetto to piece the rest together. I really like that the team decided to give the youngster a distinct camouflage patterning, showing a level of consistency from the team when it comes to its ontogenetic designs. This is further shown with another clip that was released depicting an adult member of the species eating, showcasing it with a bumpy boss and more pronounced skull ridges. Other clips show that the Carnian pluvial episode won't be the only threat to this dicynodont. We see a Pamphagia try to pick up a gnaw on the poor juvenile, only to humorously fail, as well as some Saurosuchus cornering a group of Ischigualastia before both both being washed away by an oncoming flood. While we can't see much of their design in the trailer, concept art of the animal was posted by artist Joshua Noop, showing the 3D model too, and I have to say, it looks awesome. Unlike previous depictions of the animal, which leaned way more into looking like a quadrupedal theropod than a crocodilian, this design takes a lot more inspiration from modern crocs. This is evident in everything from the alignment of the osteoderms to the mossy green and muted brown colour scheme, giving the animal a much more authentic look that truly belongs within its environment. The trailers and clips also tease the appearance of other animals that will likely show up in the episode. We get a glimpse of what appears to be a lesomsaurus roaring at another animal, hopefully a Phaseolosuchus, a Zupaeosaurus hunting the small mammal Palaeomedia, which is shown scurrying inside a log, and a rhynchosaur emerging from a burrow it's currently digging. Episode 3, which is currently not titled, likely takes place within both the Prince Creek Formation during the Late Cretaceous and the Polecat Bench Formation during the early Paleogene, set before and after the KPG mass extinction event. The episode follows a mated pair of nanuqsaurus trying to survive the aftermath of the impact, which is highlighted in the clip showing both of them struggling through a storm most likely triggered by the asteroid. While I do like certain aspects of the prehistoric planet design, I do unfortunately prefer the surviving Earth one, as it's clear that other parts from a scientific standpoint have aged poorly, which isn't the fault of the show's production team, as when it was being made, nanuqsaurus was widely believed to be an example of island dwarfism due to the fragmentary nature of the fossils discovered in 2014. It was only later discovered after the show was made that those remains belonged to a juvenile and that the animal may have actually reached 8 to 9 meters in length. Moving back to the surviving Earth design, I was worried when I first saw it on the official poster, as the animal looked incredibly awkward with its slouched body and seemingly pronated arms. However, seeing it in action in both trailers definitely made my worries vanish. I'm a huge fan of the white coat with black splotches, as it reminds me of Nathan Rogers' iconic paleo art piece, which is my favourite look for the animal. However, I also love that they added the blackish blue stripe running across its eye, adding a nice layer of contrast that keeps the design from feeling monotonous. Beyond just showcasing what they look like, the trailers and other release material also gives us a glimpse of these animals in action. We see this briefly in the teaser trailer, and much better in the behind the scenes clip, where a nanuqsaurus attempts to hunt a herd of stampeding Edmontosaurus, only to get completely flattened after trying to run underneath one. The Edmontosaurus here look nice, sporting earthy charcoal bodies with distinct reddish brown patches on their heads, along with the accurate addition of actual hooves on their front feet. While it's true that they lack the fleshy midline ridge from more recent reconstructions, it's completely understandable given that the show's production was likely mostly finished before it was revealed. What I appreciate more though is how massive they feel next to the nanuqsaurus. In a lot of older documentaries, Edmontosaurus was basically treated as a sitting duck, usually shown just standing still or running away briefly until a predator easily catches them. However, the winds of fortune finally seem to be blowing in the animal's favour, as more recent media seem to be portraying them closer to how they likely would have behaved. I mean, the largest species of Edmontosaurus is estimated to have been bigger than even a T-Rex, so seeing that even attempting to hunt them come with a massive risk is incredibly satisfying to see. The trailer also gives our fair share of the Paleogene creatures featured in the episode, highlighted by a clip showing our first look at a pair of Palaeontology leaping between canopy branches to cross a river. One of the neat things when it comes to this animal is that Palaeontology is a species of stem primate, making it the predecessor of modern monkeys, apes, and humans, as well as one of the most important transitional fossils between primitive mammals and the first true primate. Like a lot of things in this show, it's nice to see them highlighting lesser known prehistoric creatures and time periods, as they could have easily dedicated an entire episode to the meteorite strike itself, but instead the team clearly wanted to give the Paleocene the attention it truly deserves, rather than treating it like a brief footnote between the dinosaurs and the more popular mammalian megafauna. However, that's not the only Paleocene mammal that we get a glimpse of, as we see a pair of Titanoides walking alongside a riverbank acting aggressively. While the design itself looks fantastic with its hippo-like texture, the visual effects look a bit rough, reminding me of certain mammal designs in Walking with Beasts. Still, even though it will probably be fixed in the final release, I find it quite charming overall, since it reminds me of those classic paleo documentaries. While neither trailer reveals any more creatures, we do know that several more animals from the Cretaceous and Paleogene will appear, such as Dromaeosaurs Unuacomis, Asteriornis, and Cosmodraco. Episode 4, titled When the Seas Died, is set within an amalgam of the Chemchem group and either the Tropic Shale or Carlisle Shale during the early late Cretaceous period, spanning the Cenomanian-Turonian boundary event. This is further shown in the teaser trailer with what I can presume to be our key focal animal, Spinosaurus, as it roars at a flock of ichthyornis flying away, most likely in an attempt to protect its young from the birds. This is further supported by the storyboards, which show several ichthyornis attempting to hunt a youngster that had wandered off before the mother scares the predators away, snatches up her chick and safely places it back in her nest. Other footage shows the youngsters chirping and lying down in the nest as the mother settles beside them, and either the mother or possibly another Spinosaurus being engulfed by a tidal wave before fatally crashing into a rock. Ouch. Personally, out of all the new Spinosaurus designs we've seen in paleo documentaries, I do have to say that this one is my least favourite due to the shortened face and heavy neck scoots, which, I don't know, makes it feel a little bit too crocodilian for my taste, though I do like they have given it lips at least. However, what surprised me the most and what I like even more is the appearance of the hatchlings, as it looks like they've been given feathers and a reduced spinal sail, which is further supported by Gabriel Yagetto's official concept art. Usually other depictions of Spinosaurus hatchlings feature only minor ontogenetic variation, which isn't inaccurate as we'd never found any fossils related to them, but I do have to admit I do like when depictions get speculative, and oh boy are these my favourite type of speculative. Giving these Spinosaurus hatchlings a coat of filaments not only allows them to stand out from other depictions, but also offers a neat plausible look at how these animals might have actually developed. Speaking of babies, we also see a mother Brachylkenius with her juvenile as she helps it to reach the surface, most likely to help it gain its first breath. We see a few more scenes of the animals, including the mother and her juvenile swimming over a rudis reef, a pod diving into deeper water, and another Brachylkenius that has unfortunately been skewered on trees after being washed ashore by a storm. The design here looks incredible. The counter shading of the bluish-black body and greenish-white stripes is beautifully implemented, reminding me very much of the Liplorodon from the original Walking with Dinosaurs. What I didn't expect to see on the animal was the inclusion of a broad tail fin. Recently, it was discovered through CT scans that bony knobs and compressed shapes were present on the tail, suggesting that there was some form of fleshy structure that extended beyond the bone, presumably to help them propel themselves through the water. I really didn't expect them to include this feature, as most paleomedia rarely shows it, so it makes me incredibly happy to see a pliosaur finally depicted this way. Other animals confirmed to appear include the giant shark Cretocirhinus snatching a pteranodon, a clear homage to Mark Whitten's famous artwork, the giant ammonite Parapuzosia, the early mosasaurid Potunatasaurus, and a dead nodosaur, whose puppet was first revealed in a behind-the-scenes image during the show's initial announcement. Episode 5, titled When the Forest Collapsed, is set within a composite late Carboniferous and early Permian ecosystem, drawing heavily from the Sydney Mined, Archer City, Arroyo Stainmore, and Peisberg formations, set before and after the Carboniferous forest collapse. Right at the start of the teaser trailer, we get our first look at a Carboniferous rainforest and the animals that flourish within it, such as a small amniote confirmed to be Dendromia, watching the forest burn around it before scurrying away with its young on its back to escape the flames. I do like that Dendromia has been included in this episode because, for those who don't know, it is one of the oldest animals to have fossilized evidence of parental care. By highlighting this, the show reveals that even as far back as the Carboniferous, animals were already experiencing complex nurturing behaviors, and that such traits are not exclusive to more modern animals. Now, after hearing that, you might think it would be a pretty cool animal to follow as the key species for this episode. However, that doesn't seem to be the case, as the team has confirmed that 2 species of the amphibian Diplocaulus will take center stage instead. For the Carboniferous species, the episode will focus on her struggle to protect her eggs, a behaviour briefly shown in the behind-the-scenes clip where she is seen digging a burrow, presumably for that purpose. I genuinely think the team made the right call in choosing Diplocaulus as the key creature. Not only is it one of my favourite extinct amphibians, but it's also one of the few genera that first appeared in the Carboniferous and persisted all the way into the late Permian, even if many of the species assigned to the genus are now considered dubious. One of the theories as to why it survived the Carboniferous rainforest collapse is that its unique body shape helped it to dig burrows to excavate during droughts, which is a neat bit of speculative behaviour to explore, though it does seem that this show is possibly mixing in some additional speculation by having the animal use this burrowing technique to protect her eggs from drying out. However, it is shown that this technique won't be foolproof for everything, as another behind-the-scenes video shows a Permian species of Diplocaulus being dug up by Dimetrodon. We see Dimetrodon throughout both trailers, with footage showcasing the synapsid looking over the Permian landscape as a Varanopic crawls over it, while other scenes show it growling and charging towards something, presumably the cotyledorhynchus we see collapse from exhaustion. I'm not sure if this is a deliberate reference to the Walking with Dinosaur episode New Blood, where a Placerius is injured by a Postosuchus, leading it to collapse at the predator's mercy, or if it's just a crazy coincidence given that both scenes were filmed on location in New Caledonia. So, what do I think about the Dimetrodon's design? I think it's possibly one of my favourites, if not my favourite design for the animal, as it's clear that a lot of effort was put into making sure it genuinely looked like a stem mammal rather than the sluggish lizard-like creature we've seen in many older documentaries. A further look at Gabriel Yagetto's concept art highlights this perfectly, featuring a fantastic coloration of sandy browns, muted tans and dark charcoal spots designed to blend into the Permian environment, with the rest of the anatomy being equally well executed, with a realistically rigid torso and the tips of the neurospines breaking free from the sail webbing. It is also incredible that the production team actually kept the tiny tear in the sail from the concept sheet all the way through to the finished 3D model, a detail that definitely helps to make the animal feel like it has experienced some tussles in its life, making it so much more believable. Other animals confirmed to feature in this episode include the giant griffinfly Meganeura, the enormous millipede Arthroplura, the freshwater fish Orphacanthus, and the giant temnospondyle Uryops. Episode 6, titled When the Ocean Shrank, seems to take place within a composite of late Ordovician ecosystems, drawing heavily from the Anzaldo and Jones Creek formations during the Ordovician-Silurian mass extinction event. The episode follows the male sacabambaspis as he tries to build a nest to attract a mate, all while trying to avoid the dangers that lurk within the reef it lives in. Other than episode 8, which we will talk about later, this is the episode that we know the least about, with only 2 prehistoric animals being revealed within either the trailers or outside material, those being the previously mentioned sacabambaspis and a pair of orphacones, presumably as they caught one another using bioluminescence. Let's start with sacabambaspis in all its goofy looking glory. Other than the lovely details you can see on the oral plates inside its mouth and the spaced out gills, I really like the contrast that they've given to the animal, with the muddy browns and pale ochre stripes on its head shield, as well as the paler coloration on the lower half. Because we know that it was a notably slow swimmer due to its heavy armor and lack of proper paired fins, showing that it may have had to rely on counter-shading camouflage to survive is a cool piece of visual speculation. Moving on to the orphacones, not only do I like that we seem to be getting a glimpse into other potential behaviors from this group, instead of just swimming and hunting like in other Palaeomedia, but also that they've given them the ability to bioluminesce and use it to communicate with one another. While I know that these animals were unlikely to possess this due to their closest living relatives, the modern nautiluses, lacking the ability, I still think it is a neat idea to showcase how this group of cephalopods may have interacted. Besides, it does help that the visual execution is absolutely gorgeous. Other organisms that we are expected to see swimming through these ancient waters includes the ascursorids, eurypterids, the spiny fish Nerapiscicanthus, the trilobite carillonites, and the marine worm kingknights. It has also been confirmed that we will be getting a glimpse of early life on land, with not only more eurypterids but also the appearance of the mysterious prototaxites. Episode 7, titled When the Continents Collided, seems to take place across the Pliocene and Pleistocene epochs during the Great American Interchange. The episode will follow a herd of the Gomphothea elephant Cuvieronius as they migrate across the land bridge between North and South America in order to find water. I don't think I've said this before, but the elephant family are probably some of my favourite modern and prehistoric mammals due to how weird and bizarre certain members could get. This makes the inclusion of Cuvieronius even more awesome to me, as we finally get to experience the other branches of the elephant evolutionary tree on screen. I also like that the team made sure that it doesn't look like a generic elephant and instead gave it the look of a proper Gomphothea, complete with an elongated domed head and a tank-like body. While it is difficult to see, I do notice that they have included the unique spiral texture on the tusks, which have been speculated to have been used for stripping bark from trees and digging for roots, so hopefully we get to see one of those theories in action in the series. It also does seem that the herd will encounter other strange oddities and dangers on their journey, such as the giant armadillo Glyptotherium, falcon Toxodon, the giant sloth Eremotherium, the terror bird Forus rarcus, and of course Smilodon, specifically both Smilodon gracilis and Smilodon populator. First off, I do like that both Smilodon species look different, not only in their colour patterns but also their anatomy, which is further highlighted in the released concept art by Mauricio Anton. Both designs work really well, with the gracilis design being inspired by bobcats, featuring more tannish fur with faint spots and stripes as well as a leaner frame, whereas the populated design is clearly more inspired by lions with a yellowish brown coat, no visible patterns, and bulkier, more robust forelimbs. Honestly though, I think I like the design of gracilis more, as it comes off a lot more visually interesting to me, while with populator I kind of prefer the prehistoric planet and prehistoric kingdom designs. I just feel like those designs show a lot more of the robust build that this animal would have actually had, rather than the leaner frame they seem to have given this version of the animal in the show. Overall, they are still both great designs in my opinion. Episode 8, which is currently untitled, takes place within the interior plains and northwestern regions of North America during the Younger Dryas at the end of the Quaternary Ice Age. Surprisingly, much like Episode 6, this is another episode with the least footage shown in the trailer, which I found really weird seeing as this is an episode primarily about the Ice Age. The only animal featured is the previously mentioned giant short-faced bear mother, shown denning with her cubs in the teaser and later looking out at the landscape with them from their cave in the main trailer. I think the design by Bob Nichols is genuinely fantastic, as it's clear that a lot of inspiration came from its close cousin, the spectacle bear, particularly with the distinct pale facial markings around its eyes and snout, as well as the darkish brown to black coloration of its fur, which is incredibly refreshing compared to the more grizzly bear-like designs we usually see in other paleomedia. I also like that this episode is focusing on a different Ice Age animal as a key species rather than the mammoth. As much as I love seeing that animal on screen, I really appreciate that we are focusing on the perspective of a predator instead, as it allows us to see the impact of the interglacial period from a completely different angle. Other creatures that the bear family will interact with include both the mammoth and mastodon together on screen for the first time, the stag moose Saval says, dire wolves, and of course humans, which I am so glad are being included in this show. One of my biggest issues with Prehistoric Planet Iceworld was the lack of interest in showing the impact that humans had on a lot of the Pleistocene megafauna. I understand that we are not the sole factor as to why they went extinct, and it is important to show the environmental changes that were happening at the time, but we were a major factor in a lot of these animals disappearing, and it just felt like the show was shifting the responsibility from us to make it more digestible. This is why I'm glad that the Surviving Earth team is taking a more honest approach to this topic, though I do hope they portray it with a fair bit of nuance, as early humans were not aware that their actions would contribute to these animals' disappearances, which I think could be an interesting comparison to what we are doing right now, as while they have the excuse of ignorance, modern humans do not, and it's important that we are shown that reality. So, what are my personal thoughts on both trailers overall? Honestly, I wasn't too sure about the first trailer. The way everything was handled, from the editing to the lines the narrator delivered, made it seem like the show was trying to present itself as an epic disaster film rather than the nature documentary it actually is. However, I will say that the direction of the second trailer is much better and has really gotten me a lot more excited for the show. Even putting the trailers aside, I truly love the creative decisions being made here, especially the choice to include lesser known creatures from these different time periods. While I have a few minor nitpicks with some of the creature designs, the vast majority of them look incredible. They are easily some of the best visual reconstructions we've ever seen, and it truly shows just how much effort Tim Haines and the Surviving Earth team have put into what will hopefully be a really fantastic show. But what did you think of the trailers? Did you love them? Did you hate them? Let me know, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss any of my future videos, and with that in mind, I will hopefully see you all in another time. Goodbye.